After 3 months of traveling all around India, we have finally arrived in the infamous capital city.
Welcome to Delhi.
That sounds good. Delhi is kind of famous as a city that has been ransacked, rebuilt, and reused multiple times throughout its long history. And that makes it pretty unique as a center of culture, art, trade, and politics here in India. By the way, we are only visiting here for just a few nights, and we're mostly getting ready to fly off to our next stop. So we don't have a whole lot of time to explore Delhi, and this is going to be just a quick little jump through Indian history. So bear with me, and please let me know down in the comments if there's anything I missed or you think other people should know about. For this part of our trip, we were actually lucky enough to stay with a few of our friends who we met during our time in Malaysia. So we actually spent most of our time in the nearby city of Gurugram, where one of them lived. But they were nice enough to show us around Delhi proper on one of their days off. Technically, we are here in Old Delhi, which is different from New Delhi, the modern capital city. Delhi's role in the politics of the Indian subcontinent really began in the 11th and 12th centuries, when a series of kings, known collectively as the Delhi Sultanate, took power and based that power out of their capital in Delhi. These were predominantly Muslim kingdoms, and they came into a lot of conflict with some of the other kings and rulers here in India. But they did eventually spread their rule almost all the way south to the very tips of southern India. But they were pushed back in the 14th century by both a collapse and separation of different kingdoms and the rise of Hindu states like Vijayanagar, which, by the way, you can learn a little bit more about by watching our video on Hampi. This left the area wide open for conquest, and in 1526, Babur, from modern-day Uzbekistan, rode down and conquered the city, founding what today we know as the Mughal Empire. I've talked a little about the Mughal Empire in some of my previous videos, but this is really the center of that story. The empire was founded shortly after the conquering of this city, and although they originally had their capital in the city of Agra, home of the Taj Mahal, they eventually moved it here. In 1648, the king Shah Jahan built this red fort, and it stood ever since as a symbol of Mughal empire, Mughal architecture, and Mughal rule from the capital here in Delhi. The Red Fort, which you can see spreads all the way out here, is one of the largest structures left behind by the Mughals in the city. The Mughal emperors built a number of different monuments here in Delhi, including this mosque behind me, the Jaman Masjid, which is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, mosque in all of India. Now, unfortunately, I can't go in today because I didn't wear my long pants, but it is really beautiful, even from the outside, especially these marble tops on these domes, which look pretty wonderful in this light. As much as the Mughal emperors are not necessarily remembered fondly by the people of India, at least in my experience so far, they are known as being slightly more religiously open-minded. Although they were Islamic rulers, at least the first king, Babur, was known as someone who was a little more open to holding different religious beliefs, and became more lax as he got older and hopefully wiser. This administrative style, along with their military might, allowed the Mughal emperors to create a period of relative stability, at least in this part of the subcontinent. However, in the first half of the 18th century, due to overextension and rebellions across the empire, coupled with the increasing influence of European colonial powers, the empire began to collapse. And this area changed hands a number of times between different kingdoms, different kings and rulers, before eventually falling into the hands of the British East India Company and, finally, the British Raj. Eventually, in 1911, King George V decided to move the capital of the British Empire in India from Calcutta here to Delhi. And since then, it's been basically the center of Indian politics and government. Although Delhi is still one of the largest cities in India and very, very important for political reasons, it has in many ways been surpassed, at least in size and in economic power, by other cities in India, like Mumbai. However, it's still a really wonderful place to come and visit. Especially here in Old Delhi, you get a very strong sense of what India is like. We've been traveling here for 3 months now, so we've already gotten quite a bit of that flavor, and we don't need to spend a lot of time here. But I do recommend walking through some of the old streets and parts of Old Delhi to really get a little bit of an experience. Delhi is really fun to explore, especially with our friends, but it has been quite a shock after coming down from the Himalayas and back into busy, chaotic city life. Still, it's good to see, and I'm glad that we showed up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we only have a few nights here because we're going to be moving on to our next country very, very soon. But we'll save that for next video. So in the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and
See you at our next destination.
ciao!